All right, so, picture this. It's 1895. We're watching this, what would you even call it? This flickering black and white film. And
Right.
there's a family, right? They're saying goodbye to someone. A loved one's about to set sail. And it's, oh man, you can just feel it. It's heart-wrenching.
Wow.
And it makes you realize this isn't just some, old home video. This is the Skladanowski brothers,
Right.
pioneers of cinema, capturing, their world,
Yeah.
creating this illusion of life even after the moment's gone.
Yeah, it makes you think, huh?
It really does. And that's where things get really interesting, I think.
Definitely. It's fascinating, isn't it? Because it's like, as Reach Out talks about, this instantly connects film to identity.
Oh, absolutely.
You've got this aura, right, of the person standing there in front of the camera, and then it's just gone, like their Uncle Eugen.
Just like that.
And then it's replaced by this mechanical reproduction.
Wow.
It changes everything. I mean, we're not just looking at what's being shown, but we're looking at how we see.
Okay, so let's break that down, because that whole aura thing, disappearing and being replaced, that really hits home, especially today. I mean, think about it. We are just bombarded with images constantly. It's so easy to forget there's this whole system behind it all, this whole apparatus, that makes the choices about what we see on screen.
Absolutely. And that's where suture comes in.
Yeah.
That was big idea. Think of every film, every image as inherently incomplete. There are these gaps, right, in what we're shown, and our minds just rush in to fill them.
Yeah.
To create that sense of wholeness, to find the meaning.
Yeah.
We're stitching ourselves into the narrative, like some kind of visual tapestry.
That's such a great way to put it. It's this is why the idea of film shaping who we are goes way beyond just the story, right? It's how we're set up as viewers, how we're manipulated without even realizing it to connect, even if what we're seeing is a total illusion.
Exactly. And this manipulative power, this desire to use film for, let's say, political means, not new, not at all. But what makes even The Rain so interesting, so compelling even, is that it layers this self-awareness right onto the filmmaking itself.
Oh, I see what you mean. So we've got this film crew in Bolivia, right?
Yeah.
Making a movie about who else? Christopher Columbus and the Spanish conquest, all that. But at the same time, there's this real life water war going on in the city where they're filming. It's past and present, just colliding head on. And that is where these ethical questions just jump out at you.
Absolutely. Can a film about colonial exploitation avoid replicating those same power dynamics, even during its own production? I mean, can you tell a story about exploitation without, in some way, exploiting the very people whose story you're telling?
It's it's not just theoretical, right?
Huh.
When you hear that caterer's awkward silence, you can just feel it.
Oh, yeah.
When Anton, the actor playing Columbus, makes that joke about demanding gold, it's that line between the past, the exploitation then, and what's happening right now in the film, it just disappears.
It does.
It's the film itself is holding up a mirror, making us ask ourselves, how do we benefit from inequality, even when we think we're the good guys condemning it?
It makes you think.
It really does. And it's not just about the people making the film, right? Because, as viewers, we're holding a camera, too, in a way.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
We're looking through the lens that they're giving us.
Right, right.
There's this one scene, I don't know if you remember it, but it really, stuck with me. Sebastián, the director, he's showing Costa the screen tests for Hatu, the Taino chief.
Yeah.
And you just see Daniel's face right there, framed by the monitor. And they're analyzing him, evaluating him. Just a representation of the indigenous.
Exactly. It's he's trapped.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like a frame within a frame. It's such a powerful visual, for how indigenous identities are often built up through that colonial lens.
So true.
Reduced to just images.
Yeah.
Images that serve someone else's story. And the film makes us ask, is Sebastián, even with good intentions, any different from all those who came before, who wanted to control, to define indigenous peoples for their own purposes?
It's going back to Chow's idea of aura,
oh, yeah.
That unique thing, that presence of the original, it's gone, and it's replaced by this representation that fits a specific need. And in this case, it's tied to the filmmaker's goal, right? To tell this story about indigenous resistance. But is it really Daniel's story being told?
And that's where Hatui himself, the character, becomes so important. He bridges the gap, right, between when Columbus arrived and this present-day water war.
He's the thread. He's that connection between these two stories that seem totally separate at first. But he reminds us the past, it never really leaves, does it?
Not really.
Like that moment, I get chills just thinking about it. When Hatui, within the film, he tells the other indigenous people, he's like, the Spanish, their thirst for gold, it's a disease.
Yeah.
And it's just, boom, direct link to the present, water, the most basic thing, a human right, but it's being, commodified, withheld.
Exactly. And just like Hatui resisting Columbus, there's Daniel. He becomes a leader in those water protests.
Wow.
Refuses to be silenced, won't be bought off.
That's powerful.
And that defiance, it's like he's willing to put himself on the line, right? And it forces everyone else, everyone around him, to just confront how urgent this is.
Yeah. It's like Daniel, by taking on the role of Hatui, he takes back his own WN story,
Absolutely.
He's not just an object, just something to be looked at.
Yeah, he's not just there to be looked at.
He becomes this agent of change.
He does.
And that change in him, it kind of pushes Costa to his own reckoning, doesn't it?
It does. And that's what makes the ending even more, more to think about, because we're left with questions, not easy answers.
Like there's a scene, right, where Costa's trying to get Daniel out of jail.
Oh, right.
And he's negotiating, right, with the police chief.
Yeah.
And the camera just focuses right there on the money.
On the table.
Yeah. The money's on the table. That's the price of Daniel's freedom.
It's such a heavy image, It makes you think of, like, those old paintings. The betrayal of Christ.
No, totally. It's like a modern-day Judas right there.
Totally.
And it's even more, messed up because we see Costa and Sebastián struggling with it.
It's true.
Costa, he's the pragmatist, right? He's like, this is the only way. We got to save the film. But Sebastián, he's the idealist. He's torn. His art and the cost of it all.
And they both, in a way, betray Daniel, don't they?
They do.
But, and this is important, the film doesn't let them off easy.
No, not at all.
It shows us what happens.
That violence, oh man.
The city just falls apart.
Chaos.
Yeah.
And it's in that chaos, that's when Costa, his change, it becomes real,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
It's not talk anymore, it's action.
Right.
He could die, but he's got to save Berlin. And it doesn't feel, like he's doing it because it's the right thing, It's like he finally sees them. The people around him, they're human beings. They deserve his care.
It's like he's shedding that layer,
Yeah.
of cynicism.
Yeah.
That detachment.
Right, totally.
And he's seeing it all through, new eyes.
Totally.
Where human dignity, that's what matters.
This is what gets me about how they use that film within a film,
It's clever.
It makes us ask, are we any different than Costa? Do we only care when it's a good story? Or when we see ourselves in there?
It's like Chow said about suture.
Yeah.
We're constantly being, stitched into these narratives.
Manipulated, right?
To feel those emotions. And
Yeah.
even the rain makes us aware of it, even while it's happening to us.
In that last scene,
Oh, man.
Daniel, after everything, he gives Costa this little vial of water.
What?
It's so small, but it says so much.
Doesn't it? Like a thank you, but also, remember this.
Right. Thank you for saving her, for seeing us. But also, a reminder, right? This is what we were fighting for. Water. The most basic thing. And it's being taken, sold off.
It is.
It's like Daniel's saying, don't forget us. Don't forget what you saw. And that's what makes the ending, it just stays with you. It doesn't give you answers. It gives you, this question.
Makes you think, right? Now, with all our fancy technology, has that line between just looking and really representing and exploiting, has it just gotten blurrier?
And if it has, how do we deal with that? How do we do better, whether we're the ones watching or the ones making the films? Something to think about, right? Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.